Hello everyone, and welcome to day 3 of JoJomas, where we will be talking about, again, Dio Brando, but this time, part 3 Dio, after he legally changes his name to Dio, all capital letters, and ditches the last name Brando, rests underneath the ocean inside a coffin for over a century, and takes over Jonathan Joestar's body. So yeah, Dio from part 3. I know I mentioned yesterday in Cars' video that Dio is my least favorite villain in the series, but that by no means means he's a bad character or even an uninteresting character. Dio's one of the most interesting villains in the entire series, as he reoccurs in 3 parts as a major character that is involved with the story. So getting on to Dio, although he is technically the same person that he was in part 1, he couldn't be any more different. After taking over Jonathan's body and resting underneath the ocean for, I think it was almost exactly a century, he developed some very different characteristics and changed into a very different person. The character Dio Brando that we knew in Phantom Blood, which we talked about on day 1 of JoJomas, was, after his transformation into a vampire, viewed himself as a god and really didn't respect humanity at all. You know, we saw him play with humans, turning them into chimera animal beasts just for fun and toys, but with his time underneath the ocean and the experience he learned from his interactions with Jonathan, it gave him a lot of time to reflect upon himself and didn't make him necessarily grow as a character, but change and have new ideals. So the Dio that we were introduced to in part 3, as weird as it sounds, shows more compassion towards humans because of what he learned through Jonathan. In part 1, really the only human Dio ever respected was Jonathan, because, you know, they sort of shared a lot of life experiences. Dio went through so many hardships with his mother, his father, and turned him into sort of the bad person he was, but he was always naturally evil. And he sort of saw that within Jonathan, as all the terrible things Dio had done to Jonathan, killing his father, ruining his life, and just burning down his family home, killing his dog. I feel like in a way this allowed Dio to sort of connect with Jonathan on a level, and really view him as his counterpart. You know, Dio, he sort of needed Jonathan to be able to have, like, validation for himself, as he had so many opportunities to kill Jonathan throughout Phantom Blood, but he always just prolonged it. It's like he didn't want Jonathan to go, like he was his only true friend, as he really developed feelings for Jonathan. So I felt like this was really evident at the end of Phantom Blood when Jonathan actually dies, this character who has, you know, given Dio so many hardships, and Dio almost viewed him just as immortal as he was, as, you know, no matter how much Dio tried to stop Jonathan, he would always come back. So when Jonathan finally died, Dio he was shocked in his face. He was like, "You're not dead." Like, he's like, "Wake up, Jonathan, like, there's no way you're dead yet." And it was just kind of, I feel like that was a really traumatic experience for Dio, to see sort of the only person he ever respected or actually cared for die before his eyes, and led him to take Jonathan's body out of how much respect he had for him, and as well as sort of a way to preserve himself. So, and we see this again in part 3, where, you know, Dio loves having his new body. Before, we would see him dress almost, you know, like a god, wearing all of these, you know, jewels and crowns and everything, seinen and thrones. But when we see him in part 3, he's nude like 90% of the time, just sort of admiring Jonathan's body, always seen touching himself and looking at the birthmark. But I need to give a shout out to Dio's character analysis. I find myself, as I'm rambling, I'm taking so many aspects from that character analysis video, but that will be linked down in the description. I also linked that in the comments of the first episode of JoJomas. It's a really great in-depth Dio character analysis that I think everyone should watch if you want a further understanding of his character. That'll be linked down below. So along with Dio's experience with Jonathan leading him to respect humanity more, and, you know, we see this forming friendships with Vanilla Ice, and especially in part 6, how Dio almost, you know, he became best friends with a mere mortal, and just Pucci and Dio's relationship is very interesting, but this isn't the video for that. So just changes happened to Dio underneath the ocean, experienced dramatic personality shifts as well, almost being just like completely insane at this point. But alright, I'm talking too much about Dio himself. Let's get down to the JoJomas aspects of this video. Least favorite and favorite moment from Dio. I just kind of want to get it out there that Dio in part 1 is very different from Dio in part 3. That should be pretty evident. Okay, so I thought about this long and hard. I really did. It was keeping me up last night. I was like, dude, what am I going to talk about tomorrow for my favorite moment from part 3 Dio? I have favorite part 1 Dio moments. I have favorite part 6 Dio moments, but what the hell do I like about Dio in part 3? And, you know, a lot of my JoJomas favorite moments are about, like, something about the character's personality. Like in day 1, I talked about, oh, when Dio finally transformed, I really liked what it did for his character. And then in part 3, or then in yesterday in Cars' video, I talked about how I really like the characteristics of Cars' character, preserving what he isn't or what he doesn't know, like the animals. But for part 3 Dio, like, I don't think my favorite moment for him is gonna be just like some development for his character. I think it's just gonna be something like, I don't know, him dropping a steamroller on Jotaro, that was pretty fucking cool. Or him like playing games with Polnareff, how he would use the world, pick up Polnareff, put him back. But when I think about these like character developing moments and these small characteristics, I can't come up with anything for Dio, because similar to Cars, we only really saw him in the final chapters of Stardust Crusaders, and it was sort of Cars syndrome to the extreme. I mentioned how my least favorite moment for Cars was when he became the ultimate life form and turned so cocky and was working off revenge and just sort of savoring the moment of being able to kill his targets. And part 3 Dio is that to an extreme. So I hate to say that that's also my least favorite moment from Dio, but it really is. Like, he had the ability to stop time. He could have killed Jonathan, Joseph, Polnareff, Kakyoin, everyone in just one moment. But he just savored the act, and that's what ended up getting him killed. So similar to Cars. Maybe that's the reason why part 3 Dio ends up becoming my least favorite villain. Although, like I said, he's not uninteresting. He's not a bad character. It's just there's nothing about him that really appealed to me. You know, you could still be a bad character, but still be well written and interesting. Although a lot of his moments in part 3 were retconned once we are introduced to his motive in part 6. But that could be taken as just, okay, Dio didn't want to mention anything about heaven or anything about Pucci, and he just wanted to defeat the Joestar bloodline, as that was a more personal conflict to him, and he didn't want to get Pucci involved with that. So, unfortunately, Dio's character does have some retcons to it in his motives and everything, but for part 3, it was really cool seeing the final climax to the Joestar and Brandel rivalry, but specifically with Dio's character, there was just not a lot of things I liked about it, and I really hated his overconfident, over-cocky personality and just insanity he showed towards the bloodline when, you know, he could have been more meticulous, he could have been more realistic about it, and just gotten the job done, and then continued on his mission with Pucci or whatever. But if you want that story, go play Eyes of Heaven. So yeah, pretty simple video for part 3 Dio. Why I liked him, why I disliked him. He's a very interesting character, but I just can't get down with Dio. I really can't. Anyways, guys, let me know. I've been forgetting to say this, but I've been reading all the comments in JoJomas, and I forgot to ask you, what are you guys' favorite and least favorite moments from these characters? I always read almost every single comment to these videos, because it's just like, make the video, read the comments, then make the next one, and then I'm excited to read the next one and see what your guys' opinions are on these villains. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching this episode of JoJomas. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys all tomorrow, where we're going to talk about an extremely good villain, Yoshikage Kira. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.